Hello and welcome to Planting Joy Gardens.
Welcome to Planting Joy Gardens. It's mid March and it is time to winter sow. I live in zone 5B6A, and March is the perfect time. With my winter sowing, I choose plants that need a cold period or plants that will germinate in cool soil. So I will be doing the leafy vegetables. So I have pot soy, butter crunch lettuce, pak choy, and Bloomsdale spinach. And I am going to get, just for a try, some heirloom Swiss chard. Chard generally needs warmer soil, but I'm going to give it a try and see how well the seeds will hold up. Um, in cool temperatures, it is a larger seed, so it's not as likely to rot away in the soil. And remember, the point of winter sowing is to have the seeds in place and they germinate at the right time for the seed. Oftentimes, these are plants that will self seed in your garden. So you want to select plants that, tend to come back on their own by dropping seeds. I also paid attention to the forecast. So I know this is a warm spell. There'll probably be anywhere from 7 to 10 days of moderate temperatures. It will be cool nights, but the daytime temperatures will be in the 60s. Nighttime temperatures will stay above freezing. But these plants, if they're affected by a frost or if there happens to be a frost, they're fine. They can tolerate a frost. Also, for my setup, I'm using a small box. So I'll be starting 36 plants in here. And the advantage of a small box is I could throw cloth over it, or I can actually pick it up and move it. So I'm not one of those people who will do 100 jugs when I can do 36 seed trays. Um, Put it in a container that will provide humidity and also provide shelter and warmth. And that way, if my temperatures get crazy, I can put it in a protected area or I can just bring it inside for a cool night. So let's get started. So I will be starting with the tot soy. I will be doing 12 uh, little trays of the tot soy, or 12 of these. I don't know how many is in here. 3, 6, 9, 12. 12. So I will start with that. It is small seeds. And I will put multiple seeds in the tray. I try not to, woo, I try not to oversow because I don't like thinning. And with this one, I started with divots. It's recommended for 1/4 inch. So the tot soy, the pak choy, most lettuces only need 1/4 inch of depth to grow. Spinach needs about a 1/2 inch, and the Swiss chard is a larger seed. You always want to plant at least twice the size of the seed. So the Swiss chard needs about 3/4 of an inch at the maximum. Now we're going to do is the top soy, sowed at 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to do the pak choy, and I am saving some seeds behind because these are things I also like to direct sow, and I will just direct sow them um, closer to my last frost date. So right now I'm 6 to 8 weeks away from my frost date, and I think I'm around 6, 7 weeks from my frost date. And so later, maybe 2 weeks before my last frost, I will re-sow these directly into my garden. And the pak choy seeds look very similar um, to the tot soy. They're both cabbages. And I want to show you the tray. So you see I have little finger divots. And they have all these dibbler tools, which are nice. But I find I can't get the depth right without using my fingers. I seem to be able to judge a quarter inch a little bit better. For deeper depths, like an inch, I could probably use a dibbler. But for these really tiny seeds, it seems to work better if I just simply go right ahead and just use my fingers. All right, and then I'm going to smooth it over, put the soil on top, and it's a quarter inch. And this is my pot soil. This is something you could do very quickly. The important thing is to pre-moisten your soil. If you try to moisten the soil after you have sowed the seeds will probably drift off to the side. So it's best to cover them over. You want to make sure you have good contact. So you want to kind of, I mean, you don't have to press real hard, but you kind of want to press to make sure that the seed is making contact with the soil. And when the roots develop, you won't have major air pockets around the roots. Okay, and for this last tray here, a little closer, this one here, I'm going to do a row of black seed Simpson, a row of spinach, and a row of Swiss chard. Of course, the Swiss chard and the spinach deeper because they're larger seeds, but I'm just going to make a small depression about a quarter inch for the lettuce. And then I'm going to actually use my dibbler for my spinach because it needs to be a little bit deeper. And my Swiss chard is it's such a large seed that I want to make sure I don't put as many seeds in the hole so that they have plenty of room. Swiss chard is a multi-seed pod. So one seed actually is multiple seeds because it's actually the pod that we plant. So let's go on and get started with lettuce. This is the black seeded Simpson. And of course, it's going to be super small because of the nature of lettuce. Ugh, and I sold way too many. I got a lot for this little bit of space. So this is my quarter inch. And lettuce needs to, you can almost get away with surface sowing and then just covering it over. I am planting into the divot, quarter inch divot, because this is winter sowing and that little bit of protection over the seeds is very, very helpful. So that is the lettuce. So in contrast to the other seeds, the lettuce seeds, you can see the size of the spinach seed. So I'm going to put maybe 2 or 3 per hole. And I can thin it later. Spinach can be kind of temperamental. I generally will direct sow. So that's why I'm not doing a lot of starts. I'm just doing a few because spinach prefers to be direct sowed. And what I often will do, and I probably will do today, is I literally will take some spinach and just cast it any old place and it just comes up because every year I tend to have, when you come out in December, you see spinach sprouting. You're like, wait a minute, what is this? And it's actually spinach. So it's a tough little plant and it's really good at self sowing, self seeding, and it's um, one of those volunteer vegetables. Okay, and now for the Swiss chard, and you'll see that the Swiss chard is even larger than the spinach. So here's the Swiss chard. And I'm not doing a lot of Swiss chard because I prefer to start Swiss chard a little later. Um, Swiss chard can be harvested as a young leaf, so it can be harvested anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And I just prefer to do it and water it and care for it in warmer weather as opposed to caring for it in really cold weather. Um, Swiss chard is frost tolerant, but it's nothing like black seeded Simpson lettuce or like spinach itself. So it needs a little bit more care in cool weather compared to, say, spinach. So I'm just making sure that everything is covered, that there's good contact. I started with very moist soil. And so now we're going to close this up and I will find a great home for this. Okay. So I also want to show, we need to put our tags in. This was Swiss chard here. This was my lettuce. And I am missing my spinach tag. All right, let's take a look. And oh, there it is. Here's the spinach tag. Whoa, the wind is picking up. And labeling is so important. I like winter sowing things such as tot soy, spinach, Swiss chard, and pak choy because they're easy to use vegetables. They can be eaten raw in salads. It can be sauteed. It can be added to soups and stews. So I feel like I get the best bang and the best use out of these green leafy vegetables. Later on, when soil temperatures are warmer, I will be planting things like mustards and collards. But for now, I'm going for the plants that I truly know that are frost tolerant. I'm also planting things that I know will bolt at the first sign of a long day. So these plants, the cabbages, the chards, and the seeded Simpson lettuce, they're kind of light sensitive. You'll notice as your day get longer, even if you grow them in the shade, the length of the day can trigger them to bolt. So I prefer to grow them early spring into spring. I prefer to grow them if I'm winter sowing uh, mid March. Uh, that way, I have a little bit of control over the amount of light exposure. So in March, you don't have really long days. It gets dark early still, even though we might reach our spring solstice, the day length isn't so long. And so they're less likely to bolt regardless of how warm the temperature may be. When you wait to late spring and summer, the day length is so long that they're going to bolt. You could try things like shade cloth and putting mulch over the soil, but it's just so much easier to grow it early spring. So I am winter sowing. So sometimes I'll just leave this on my patio table. The weight of the soil is nice and heavy where it won't blow. I also have another place I think I might put this. So this is a great spot. It's right outside of my mini greenhouse, also referred to as my growing shelter. This is a great spot because if the temperature turns drastically, I can simply place it inside to provide protection. Well, the box is both south and east facing, so it's getting the right amount of sunlight and it's up against the north side of this box is up against the shelter. So it's an ideal spot. It'll get some protection from wind and all the light that it needs. So I just want to show you real quickly what's going on inside the grow shelter. So last week we sowed some more onions. It was a very cold day, but as you can see, Here, the onions have come out of germination beautifully. So they've all pretty much have come up. This one is going nuts here. It's really growing. And this is only a week of putting out of the onion set. So the time I chose to sow my onion sets was the perfect time. And I used what was going on in this shelter, what was going on with the other onions as my cue. With that in mind, the growth of these overwintered lettuce lets me know that my soil is warm enough and that there is enough daylight to plant out lettuces and my Chinese cabbages. This is the time to do some sowing. So, thank you for joining me in the garden. I hope you have started working on your garden. Here's a quick look down low of what's happened so far. I set up a container area where I will be growing spices and plants I can use for teas. I still have my strawberries there. This is for herbs and leaves, just a few. This bed will be kale initially and then move on to peppers. When I get this together, it needs work. And here, it needs work too. These will be potatoes. I will be starting some leafy greens here. So more pak choy, more tot soy, um, probably more Swiss chard. We'll start here and then I'll turn it into green beans. I also have a tower that will be growing here. Last year, I did a Swiss chard tower, and I will probably do a Swiss chard tower and a kale tower. So, thank you for joining me in the garden. It's time to get out there and get started. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming back to the channel. I appreciate any comments or suggestions you may have. Bye bye.